My name is Tom Heeny. I accepted the Lord Jesus Christ at the age of 17 in 1987. I was a metalhead. I almost completely got sucked away from God. I almost went to a meeting with a very famous drummer, um, who from one of the biggest metal bands out there, and it would have been a life of sex, drugs, rock and roll, all that bad stuff. But by the grace of God, as I was looking to ditch my dear friend on the Seaside Boardwalk, um, along comes this guy, uh, Greg, and Greg was part of a group called Young Life, and I didn't know who he was. He didn't let me leave his side, and the more I got to know him, like 3 weeks back, I gave my life to the Lord Jesus Christ. It took me out of that seductive world. Thank by the grace of God, I literally, how close I came to being pulled away to that, and then but God rewarded me 10 times over. I actually ended up doing sound and security for almost everybody in Christian music, all the 80s Christian metal bands, and I worked for almost everybody in Christian music: Stephen Curtis, Chapman, Mike W. Smith, Petra, DC Talk, you name it, I did it. And God just kind of blessed me back all the way up. I'm just trying to squeeze it in here. Fast forward I was on a construction site in 2006, and I fell out of a window on my head. So I'm alive and walking by the grace of God. What I hit was not mixed concrete. It was a slab carved right out of solid rock and recessed in the ground. It had been there for 100 years. And this was the point of impact. But because I had a little bit of scoliosis, which is curvature of the spine, a thing that kept me out of the military, the scoliosis, it sent a shockwave up this way, and the electrons from this shockwave pulled the electrons from this shockwave back and gave it a little hairline across the back of the skull. Miracle number one, I didn't split my head open like an eggshell, because what I hit was not mixed concrete. It was a slab carved right out of solid granite. It had been there for 100 years. So I didn't split my head open. Miracle number two is I didn't break my neck, because my neck was in subluxation because of the scoliosis. It was a weakened neck. And then on top of that, the miracle number three was the T4, the power center for the whole back, was on 5 pieces, yet not a single nerve ending was stretched, damaged, or broken. All the nerve endings were reattached, were hanging out there in space, even though there was nothing to grab onto. Fast forward to that, to the 1 year mark, I went to see the doctor. The doctor showed me CAT scan after CAT scan up as the 1 year mark from my accident. And the bone did fuse back like he said, but the 4 smaller pieces were broken down by the body naturally. He told me that, I'd never have full motion. Now we might have to do surgery later, pins and all that other crap. I didn't have to do any of that. The 4 smaller pieces were broken down by the body naturally, and from the 5th piece, fresh, brand new bone grew, formed a brand new vertebrae. All the nerve endings reattached themselves as if they've been there all along. It's just literally, I'm just a walking miracle by the grace of God. Yes. David went down to the river, found 5 smooth stones. It wasn't the number of stones. David didn't. People talk about the number of stones, but it was that David didn't care. David was anointed king. David for the first time, he started thinking like a king. And this guy was taunting the armies of Israel. He went down to the river, he just grabbed a fistful of rocks, and he was going to keep throwing those rocks until the giant dropped dead. He knew that God was going to use one of those rocks to kill the giant. He didn't care which one it was. One of those rocks was gonna kill the giant. Didn't matter. So, of course, it only took 1 stone to kill the giant, but, what was the reason? He just didn't care. So the thing is, the 4 smaller pieces were insignificant, and from the 5th piece, fresh, brand new bone grew, formed a brand new vertebrae. So, like I said, I'm alive and walking by the grace of God. Then on top of that, I had COVID. God healed me from that. I was hospitalized because of my immune deficiency. Ever since I was a kid, I was on special needs, but God healed me that. I had a gamma globulin deficiency. God brought me back from that. I had pre-training to the COVID because of a meeting I went to in June of 2018. It was a high-level global defense meeting. I can't really talk too much about it, but God, it was a prepping. That meeting was prepping to, it prepared me for COVID, and I had to, I knew that, I knew about ivermectin, I knew about, it was the zinc and the quinine, the tonic water. So I was kind of like a little bit ahead of myself, but I was in the hospital for 3 weeks with COVID, and I did have type 2 diabetes, and I didn't know that I'd done that, because ever since the window, Aetna basically got me like a bad habit. So I had no health insurance. I had to become a healthy homeopathic doctor, and so finding all natural cures for everything. And so because once I didn't know that I was type 2 diabetes, or diabetic. For years I was on the border, because I wasn't seeing a doctor on a regular basis. But when I found out that I was, in September, they did a blood test. I read in a thing how collard greens, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, spinach were all natural. There was something about them. They were natural they naturally they were natural cures for type 2 diabetes. So I that became my side dish, and within that became my new diet. Was all 90% was like collard greens and some sort of clean meat. And so by doing that for 6 months, they tested me in September, and when they tested me again that last December, in December of 2021, it was Christmas week. The blood test came back that I was completely healed of type 2 diabetes. I wasn't diabetic anymore. So by the grace of God, count the numbers. God delivered me from the hand of Satan with what almost happened to me in 1987. God delivered me from the window, and God delivered me from type 2 diabetes. I'm alive and walking by the grace of God. I came to the church I think it was last year, when you guys came through. You guys came to Resurgent Church. That was my first introduction to this ministry, and so I thought it was like the sweetest thing. It was the cutest thing that, if you're in your seat and you're just, you're in your seat, you're doing the normal worship thing. Oh no, you guys come get you. They come get you. They pull you out of the seat and they drag you right out on the floor, right up in the middle of everybody. And you're going to be worshiping God, whether you like it or not. And that was like, that sweet. There was a koinonia about that, and that's a koinonia is a word that's very few preachers talk about, but it's in the gospel. It's in the New Testament. Paul talks about it. Koinonia, anointed fellowship, a fellowship beyond flesh and blood. And this ministry has that. This ministry has koinonia, because it was that koinonia that pulled me out of the seat and brought me into the front. And that's what, I wanted to keep coming. I wanted to keep experiencing that. So that's what, that's kind of what brought me to this ministry. It was really, it's been a fun ride ever since. It's been a blast.